do a little bit of maybe email housekeeping and figure out some things that you've been wondering about with Outlook. Today, we're going to look at the web version. Coulter, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your role today, and then we'll just keep rolling.
Perfect. Hey, everyone. My name is Coulter Lewis. I'm calling in from Toronto, Ontario here. I'm currently at my school. I'm a technology integrator, coding teacher, and grade 7 and 8 math and science teacher here in Toronto. And my role today will just be keeping everything on track. I'll be answering any questions you might have. So feel free. We have a nice intimate session today. So feel free to ask something in the chat or even unmute your microphone and let us know if we can clarify some things, slow things down, and just help you get a better understanding of all these awesome tools that Cammie's going to be sharing with us today. So I'm going to post our link in the chat right now. There we go. So feel free to grab the slide deck and the resources for yourself. And I will be here in the background and supporting Cammie along the way. I'm very excited for today. Let's get rolling.
Thank you, Coulter. I am also a practicing educator. My name is Cammie Cannikins, and I'm coming to you from Alberta. Coulter's just finished school. I'm on a late lunch break. My job is as an instructional coach. I'm in Alberta, Medicine Hat, which is Treaty 4 and 7 territory, the bottom corner of Alberta. And so we are excited today to come to you on behalf of the Cobblestone Collective. Coulter and I both work for the Cobblestone Collective on occasion as contracted folks, and we always like to start with the land acknowledgement. And I acknowledge that I'm located on the land of 2 treaties, Treaty 7 and Treaty 4, the traditional lands of the Siksika, the Kainai, Piikani, Stoney Nakoda, and Tsuut'ina people. That's the Treaty 7 lands, and from the Treaty 4 lands, the Cree, the Sioux, and the Saulteaux bands of the Ojibwa people. We're grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. Our recognition of the land is an act of reconciliation and an expression of our gratitude to those whose territory we reside on or are visiting. And so Coulter and I, like I said, are from the Cobblestone Collective, and we are also grateful to Microsoft for support today. They are funding this session so that we can all attend for free. So a big shout out to Microsoft. And of course, we are going to look in depth at one of their tools, and that is Microsoft. And we are today going to look at the web version. So Coulter, I'm a little curious, what version of Outlook do you use mostly?
I'm mostly on the web version. Actually, I'm not as frequently on the desktop version, even though I know there are different functions. They're pretty similar, but there are a few different functions on the desktop version. With that being said, on my phone, I have the app version, and I feel like I'm always on that. So that's probably the more frequent one is the phone, because it's just that much more convenient.
Right, and that's a little different again. So today for the plan, we are looking at Outlook for the web. We are going to focus mostly on email. We're going to dip into calendar a bit, and that will be what we look at today. And so let's get rolling. So the very first thing before we do anything else is we're going to talk about customizing your space. And one of the things with all of these versions is that you can, I guess, and this is why I kind of am starting here. When I'm talking about poking here and look at this and do this, it's very possible that along the way, you in your Outlook for the web or whatever you're using, you have made changes so that your buttons might not look like mine. And so I just want us to make sure that, if I say like, click here or do this, there's things that like could happen inside the live version. I'm going to do lots of demo. Yours might look different because you've already made some customization and maybe you've forgotten about that. So if our versions don't look exactly the same, hopefully I'll show you where you've done that in the past, but they might look different, and that would be why that's happening. And so the very first thing I like to do, actually I do this in my Outlook all the time because it is web-based, is I pin the tab. And so you can do this in Edge. I think I'm in Chrome right now. I use both browsers. I ended up in Chrome here. So if I double click and come down to pin the tab, my tab goes tiny, but I can't accidentally close this window. And that's important because I am known to, when I am presenting, accidentally close that tab and poof, everything's gone. So that's a good safety measure for me. The other thing I like to do is to add this to my bookmarks. And so if I click into my Outlook here, you'll see that my bookmark isn't starred, or my Outlook isn't starred. If I click this in Chrome and Edge is quite similar, and I know what the Outlook symbol looks like. I'm not even going to put anything in there. I'm going to put that on my bookmarks bar, click done, and now I have a shortcut. So there's ways that I can get to that Outlook really quickly all the time. So those are some things that we can do to make that happen. All right, and then as I was saying, if your screen looks different than mine, I'm going to show you one of the places that you can go to do some customizing. We're going to dip into here later on, but just so that you realize that this is happening. I almost never use this tab. And so if you're like me, you're like, what? I can do those things? So I tend to spend most of my time in the Home tab. So if you look in the top left corner, it says Home. This is where the email is. This is where I do the business. But if you click on this View tab, come on. Oh, here it is, View Settings. Look at this. That's not what I was wanting. I wanted the View whole tab here. Why isn't this popping up for me? This whole setting bar. Okay, I'm just getting the settings there. You sometimes will get a whole window that pops up differently. So there's this whole different toolbar that you can get. And there's a whole bunch of different things that we typically don't use necessarily. So I just want you to know that, oh, I know what I did. View, here it is. This is the pop-up. See, I don't go here very often. More options. Look at this. Customize. Coulter, did you know this was here? Look at all these options. So when I say our inboxes might look different, it's because there's all of these options, and I can drag things around. I can turn things on and off so that they show in my toolbars, and they show, or they might not. So you or I might have done some different things along the way to make this look different. So this whole customize bit is View, and then the three dots right here at the end, more options. That's where we find that. Do you ever use that, Coulter?
No, not often. Not enough, actually. It's one of those things where, for me personally, it's like they've given me these things, and I just use what is the standard sort of prototype. Where I do see us talking about these, and I see other individuals' inboxes like, oh, this looks nice and tidy, or this looks great, or like, why do you have this? So I love it, and I'm going to start using them because I know it organizes my things more, and I definitely am going to start using some of the more functions because it's powerful, right? It makes things more seamless and makes things a lot easier. So I think it's just about getting in the habit of trying them and
Absolutely.
and using them.
If you joined yesterday with Jen Giffen, she did the Outlook for Mac session, and I was with her yesterday. Jen operates on inbox 0. That means she never has any emails sitting there in her tray or any flags. Let me tell you right now, I do not operate on inbox 0. It's actually not even something that I aspire to. So that'll look very, very different.
People operate on inbox 0 is what you're saying. It's a possibility to have that happen.
To me, that just even to try to go there actually puts, like, I just find that way too way too stressful to even try to keep it. So I resign my fact to self that I'm not going to get there. We're going to look at settings lots in this show today. And so a couple places we can get there. One is we can go to this View button along our top tab, View Settings. And so we get this settings pop up over here. Another place is always that settings cog, which is in the right-hand side. So if I click the settings wheel or the settings cog, I get a quick menu that you see here. And then at the very bottom, I get View All Outlook Settings. There it is. And so I get that same pop-up window. So I can get there two two different ways. And so just so you know, I might occasionally use one or the other. We get to the same place. I do want to start off with about halfway down on our options, customize actions. This is where we can make our inboxes look quite different. So for example, I have delete, mark as unread, flag, or move to folder as options on my emails when they show up in my email list. Okay, and you can see here that there's all these checkboxes. We're not going to go through them all, but you can decide what you use most often. I have mine really simple: reply, reply all, forward, and flag. But you can see there's a ton of other things, including print, that you can do. And then this is the toolbar at the very bottom. So underneath your message pane where you type, there's a whole bunch of things that you can have as the icons. And so you can see which ones. I've got the purple ones marked there, and we can use those like that. So actually, when Coulter and I were getting set up today, I said, "Hey, Coulter, can you see my inbox?" And he says, "No, I see OneNote." And Coulter saw OneNote because I actually use the purple option. And so really quickly under the quick tab, so I'm in the settings on the right hand side, you can see here that we can change the theme. And so we'll just, here's the traditional blue Outlook. I probably should have taken my screenshots that way so that it all looked the same, but we can change any of these. I can go something more whimsical. There's a bunch more down here. There's a Lego one that you might like, Coulter. All right, so there's a whole bunch of different ones that you can use. So that's easy to play around with, easy to make that theme. Sometimes if you have different accounts, like a home account and a work account, I like to change the theme up there. So just as we're looking at how things look. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the home tab in that top toolbar, and a couple real quick things. Very first thing, new mail. This actually looks different in the different versions. And so on the web version, it's a nice colorful button. If you click down here, you can either make a mail or an event. So I'm just going to make new mail. And then we get this familiar pop-up screen. Okay, so when you open a message, one of the things that can happen is Microsoft might give you some replies of how you can respond. And so we're going to look at how to look at suggested messages. So let's actually just get down here into our deck. So we're going to look at suggested email replies, how to turn that on. And so it's interesting. This doesn't show up very often. It has to be a really short email that's kind of like a quick yes, no, done, gotcha. If it's a long email, this suggested replies, you can see the little boxes here, these don't necessarily tend to come up. But one of the first things that we'll do is we'll show you how to turn that on, because that can be really helpful in the composition. So I'm going to go to the settings cog at the top, all the way down to the view all Outlook settings. Okay, and then I'm going to come second from the top, compose and reply. And we're going to come down here a bit to, I think it's almost at the bottom. Here it is, suggested replies. Okay, so this is one of the features of Outlook for the web that it does that some of the other Outlook versions don't. It has this suggested reply. So you can simply toggle this off or on. Now, when you toggle it on, it's going to pop up those replies. You don't have to listen to them. You might just type your own reply. And if you do like one of them, you can edit it. So if it says sounds good, you can click that. It'll automatically type sounds good, and then you can add to it as well. So you can toggle suggested replies off and on. So that is a feature of email that can be helpful in the composition part. Now, while we're in this section, the compose and reply, we're going to pop up to some email styles. And so one of the things that we can do is we can also customize. So I'm in compose and reply. So settings, mail, compose and reply. I'm just going to scroll up here while we're in this pane. And right up here, email signature, message format. That's what I'm looking for. So this little part of the screen, message format, this is where I can pick my font and the font color. And so if you change your style, so let's say I decide, oh, let's try Consolus, that looks like a typewriter. Maybe your eyes are getting a little old and you like it a little bigger. You want a different color. You want your emails to stand out. So you decide you're going to put them in blue. All right. So you can change your defaults. And if I don't think, no, there's no save button. If I go ahead and change it here, then when I am in my web version, and you can see here in the HTML format, you want to make sure you have that chosen. My messages now, so I'll come back to, let's just go back here. So, oh, there's the save button, save. So now when I type a message, I might have to refresh. Let's see, new mail. All right, Coulter, there you go. So a little refresh did it. And you can see now that I have changed my default font. One other thing that we might also want to look at in there is the BBC and the from. And you can decide whether you always want that BBC, the blank carbon copy, to show up or not. And so there's some other formatting pieces that you can do there. So that's how, if you want to change your font, the style, the color, the size, that's where we would do that. So we're going to give you a minute. You can go ahead and play with that font setting. So you're going under the settings cog. You're looking for compose and reply. You're going to scroll down to where it says suggested replies. And if you want to let us know in the chat what color or what default font are you using, you can let us know. Coulter, do you have a favorite default that you like?
Sorry, I was muted. No, I'm not a font kind of guy.
You're an out of the box kind of guy.
I'm the box. Yeah, I'm the cookie cutter. Yeah, you're getting that, eh? Yeah. Same with the colors, but I think the colors are great because I really think that organizes things really easily for everyone. So I think and the appeal to that, and I was thinking about doing that for emails for students as well because I think it's a nice format and something that they can enjoy and use and also definitely for individuals with visual difficulties. Seeing something on a different background color as well, like acrylic colors, that definitely can help.
Oh, and that being said, so we can also, because you mentioned that, under the general settings cog, top right, really quickly, and I might have this down later on, but because you're talking about it, we can switch to dark mode really easily. So if you like, you're a dark mode guy, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a dark mode guy.
So if you're a dark mode guy, see, to me, this just doesn't feel like home. But anyways, if you're dark mode, just on that quick settings panel, which is from the settings cog in the top left. All right. So that is how we get to our default fonts. Now, signatures, we can also have our signature. So you can see here, I'm going to turn off the settings right here. I've made a signature, and this pops
signatures. So super helpful. It's so convenient. This is one thing that I definitely have done.
And now what I've done, I change mine every so often. One of the things I've recently done is I've seen lots of other folks do this is I've put links in my signature. So links to important things that my people are always asking me about, my coach's website, our newsletter, like the links that I'm forever sending people. I've got some of those common links in the bottom of my newsletter. Now I have to train them to say, oh, it's in the bottom of my newsletter, just go, or it's in the bottom of my email signature. But that is actually a great time saver. So let's see how to get there. So again, the settings cog, top right. And I'm going to go view all Outlook settings. It's in the deeper settings menu. And we're going to go back to that compose and reply. And it is the thing at the very top here. Now, here's the beautiful part about most email programs do this, but I have some different links that I can use, or different signatures, pardon me, that I can use. So I have one where I have some different badges that I have, right? So that's one that, depending on the audience, sometimes I use that. This one, oh yeah, it does have a little GIF. So it's those badges again. but it's in a little GIF. And so I've put a little GIF image in there. So we can toggle between those. And if I want to make a new signature, I'm just going to actually leave it on this one. If I want to make a new signature, I just click up here and I put the signature name, and I can go ahead and do the editing. And so you can see I've got all the options down here. I can add pictures, all the font pieces. To get my picture side by side with the text, I had to use a little hack there. I put under the 3 dots, I made a little table. And for the life of me, in the Outlook web mode, I can't get rid of the lines around the table. I can do that in other versions, but I haven't. I've tried everything. So if anyone knows how to get rid of the lines in the table in a signature, yeah, that was a little tricky, but I finally made partly work. You can also set your default. So down here, you see I can set to no signature, or the default that I want. And I also actually have for a reply or a forward. So let's say I'm in conversation with someone. I don't want that whole big signature to show up every time. So for replies, I actually have that turned off. So lots of things we can, again, change our signature. We can make a new signature, and then we can set the default. So lots of things that we can do there. Okay. We can toggle between the signatures. Okay, there we go. So we'll just give you a moment. You can go ahead and create your signature. All right, moving right along. The next thing, now this is a feature that is not on Mac. For example, I think it's on the desktop, some of the desktop versions, but it is in the web, and that is the schedule send. This is probably the best part. And I don't know about your app version on your phone, Coulter, but I can't make schedule send work on my phone. On the app. If you know how, I want to talk to you. You need to teach me that later, because I've tried and I can't make it work, but I can make it work on the web. So let's just discard any changes there. Okay, so let's say I'm going to discard those. Okay, so now I've sent an email to Coulter. And I think I've got Coulter Lewis up here somewhere. Oh, are you C. Lewis? Usually your email pops up. Okay, I'll just send it to myself. That'll be okay. Send it to myself. Now, down here at the bottom, we have send as. So in the send as button, if I click that little arrow, we should always click the little arrow and find out what's underneath there. I get send and schedule send. If I click send, it will, okay, well, let's see what happens here. If I click schedule send, it has an undo button, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. So let's say, oh, I didn't mean to send that. We'll talk about how we can get an undo button. And then what I really like is this schedule send. So it defaults to tomorrow morning and Sunday morning, but you can also set a custom time. So I often in my job, I come home, and when teachers are done school from 3 to 5 is when I get lots of emails. And so if I don't get their emails, or sometimes I get their emails at the end of the day, and if I get home late, then I, maybe answer their emails at like in the evening because I'm going to be away the next day, but I don't want to send that email at 7:30 at night. I want to respect their time. So I will set it to a custom time. So maybe 8 a.m. or maybe that's even a little early, depending on the teacher. So I can set it at 8:30. And maybe I know that I want this to go out next Tuesday. So I can pick the date. And then I can press send. And when I do that, well, I'll show you what happens. Oh, sent items. It sits in my sent items, and no, it sits in my drafts. And at the top, it should say, oh, usually it says, oh, there it is. This message is scheduled to send Tuesday, the 12th at 8:30 a.m. So I really like that. It's like, oh, did I forget to send that? It's like, okay, I did, and it's scheduled. So I do like that it tells me in the draft I do have to click on the draft to see the schedule send, but I do like it says right at the top in red, hey, this is not sent, but it's scheduled. So you're okay. Because I do have a habit of writing emails and thinking I've sent them and then, oh, they're sitting in my drafts. And, anyways, I'm sure that doesn't happen to anybody else. That is schedule send. Now, let's talk about how to make a new email here and send it to her again. And I'm going to say, hi, Coulter. Now, if I wanted to send this, but I made a mistake and I'm panicking, no, I made a mistake, I can undo send. And I always want to set this to as long a time as possible. I want to make sure that I have as much time as possible to undo that send. Now, in Gmail, I think it's a 30-second, which I really like. Outlook only gives us 10 seconds, but if you're like me, you want to have that full 10 seconds. So Coulter, you might want to change this one out of the box because I don't think the out of the box setting is set to 10. So let's look at how to do that. Unless maybe you don't make as many mistakes as I do, but I'm kind of prone to that. So again, view all Outlook settings. And then it is under compose and reply. And I think it's at the bottom. Oh, undo send right here. So you can have it at 0. I'm not sure why you would, well, I don't know. I make too many mistakes for that. I always put it right at the max 10. So you might want to check that in your settings, Coulter, and make sure that it's at the max if you're a mistake maker like me. So that's a really one that I really like to do, undo send. I want to make sure that I have that saved and that's not, I don't accidentally want to change that one.
I agree. I think that's a nice little sort of safety net, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So you've probably, those ones don't take long. You've probably looked at how to schedule or stretch your undo send. We're going to move into organizing your email somewhat. So there's some really important things that the web version does differently here. And the first one is focused inbox. So we're going to go under quick settings again, and we're going to see where the focused inbox is. Now, before you go there and click this, I have to give you a warning. As I was preparing to make this session, I use Web Outlook all the time, and I'm like, oh, do I use focused inbox? I'm not sure. Let's see what happens if I click this button. It turns out I wasn't using focused inbox, but before you click that, I don't think there's an undo. So it's either like once you click that, it undoes all of the kind of programming and the AI that your Outlook has adopted. And so right now, my inbox is a mess. All of my messages that used to go to clutter are now in my inbox. And so what I have to do now is I have to help use AI to train my inbox again. So before you click focused inbox, I'm going to show you how it works. Just know that you will have some work to train it. So just an important piece there. So settings again, now right here is where this focused inbox is. And I assume like most things, it's like you can turn it on and try it and turn it off. Once I flicked that switch, even when I went back, it's like I was there and there was no going back. So I do want you to know that before you try it out. So focused inbox is right here. Now, let's take a look. I'm just going to close that window pane. So now this is my inbox. And can you see right above this yellow section, I've got focused and other. Focused and other. So what it's doing is it's taking all of my junk. No, it's not junk. This is email that I want to get, but I don't need to look at every day. It's my mailing lists, you know, the blogs, the posts, the things that I've signed up for, the products that send me, you know, after I've gone to a conference and everyone wants me to buy their things. That's where that stuff should go. Now, when I click that switch, all of that stuff came into my focused, and so I'm still training my inbox. So let's see down here, there's going to be something that I want to, okay, Edulastic team. Here's a good one. So I want to train my inbox to send this to the other. I don't want to see this all the time. So this part isn't super intuitive. You go to move, and then you come down here and you go to move to other inbox. And so I have some choices. I can move to other inbox. That means it'll move it now. But what I want to do is if I want that artificial intelligence, that AI to work, I want to select always move to other inbox. So from that person, it's always going to move there to other inbox. Now, you can also train it. This is a little kind of a shortcut to rules to always go to a different folder. So you can create some simple rules here, but I want that one to go always to other inbox. Am I sure? Okay, and this is actually an important one. hello@eduelastic.com. Usually a hello is like their generic mailer. I do, though, have some people with this company that I want to get mail from. So if it's like a real person, then I'm going to not put that to the other. I want that to stay in the focus. So I'm looking for like the hello or the messages or kind of those generic, those mass emails, but the people from Eduelastic or the person from Cami.com or the person from Cobblestone Collective, I want that to stay in my focused inbox. So do be careful that way that you've got maybe not everything from a company. You might be a little bit more focused. See what I did there? About what you move to the focused piece. All right. Another thing that we can do with our emails is when we click on an email, let's see here. I'm going to click on this one. You see that I get up at the top I've got this whole bin of tools, and we're going to take a quick look at some of these and poke under the hood here. I've got delete, which we all understand. Now, I can go ahead and delete that, but if I click, not just hover, but actually click, look at that. I get something that's called ignore. And so most of us just hover and say, oh, delete. I know delete. But did you know that if you click ignore, then that is more permanent, right? So delete's more permanent, and ignore, actually, I'm going to click on this and I want us to see the little pop-up that comes up. It says, this will delete messages for the selected conversations from all folders except sent. So it not only deletes this message, like the one that I'm on right now, it's going to delete everything from that email address unless I've sent it or unless it's in the sent. Does that make sense? So the ignore is like a big inbox zero sweeper cleaner. So that's a real interesting one. So I didn't really know that ignore was there. I was just hovered on the trash can and like, oh, there's an ignore button there. So if you're looking to clean out and clean up your inbox, if you click on ignore and make sure that you really don't want to, you want to move everything out, you can click ignore. So that is one way. Now, another thing that we can do is we can archive. And the archive is like a box. It's like a little packing storage box. So if you click on archive, it'll send it to the archives of your email. And so down here in my folders, I'll have an archive folder right here. So here's my archives. So archive just puts it away. So when our friend Jen Giffen has inbox 0, she's archiving lots of stuff or moving it into folders. It means that it doesn't get deleted forever. It just means that it's deleted partly. Now, also speaking of delete, I missed one thing I wanted to talk about. When you delete something, it goes to actually a deleted items folder. And you can see here that I have 22,000 deleted items. And so it's going to be time pretty quickly for me to say, delete those. It's probably slowing down my inbox and say, you know what, I'm going to do it right now. Empty folder. Boom. I'm going to delete over 10,000 items in real time. Coulter, look at that. Woo. Okay, should have done that a long time ago. I hope I don't regret that. Back to the inbox. At the top, another really neat tool, and this is a specific web tool, is the sweep tool. So I have to open up an email. We're just going to use this one right here. And I'm going to click on the sweep button. So it looks like a broom to sweep with. All right, so we are right here, this sweep one. So a nice big screenshot of what that looks like. So if we want to sweep, I love the sweep because it lets us pick some rules. So this particular email, I can move all messages from the inbox. That's choice number one. Choice number two, I can not only remove inbox messages, but all future messages. So now I'm starting to program it. So not just right now, but anything else that comes to me from this address is always going to be moved into my other or my clutter. And then this one says I can keep the latest, remove the rest. So there's a bunch of places. And when we click at the bottom here, we can tell it where we want them to move. So right now, this is preset to delete, but let's say I want to have all messages from my friend Coulter go to my Cobblestone Collective folder. I can program them to go. And so if you're trying to get to inbox 0 or you like that inbox to be not as full as mine, you can really do some great programming here. I'm kind of an in the face person with a lot of things. I have a lot of folders in other places, but in my email, I like to be able to scroll through there because that's kind of how I make sure I get the things done that I need to do. Okay, so that is sweep. Now, another thing that we can take a look at to do some organizing is folders. Okay, and so folders are a great way to organize our emails. We saw that when we used sweep, we could create a folder. So there's a couple places to do that. There's a folder in the top toolbar up here. So if I click on folders, I can create new. Oh, where is that not working? Hypothetically, I should be able to create a new folder. That doesn't seem to be working right now. What am I doing wrong? Create new folder. I should get this way.
I think you can type it in there.
I know, there it is. I was looking for a pop-up window. Thank you. I was just Cobblestone. Okay, so if I want to make a new folder called Cobblestone, hit enter. Now under my folders here, I have a folder called under folders. I now have a won't stay open. Folders, there it is. I should now have a folder called Cobblestone that's not appearing, but that's how you would make a folder. I can also go to the very bottom, right at the bottom of the left-hand toolbar and create a folder down here as well. So a couple different ways to make a folder. And again, when I go to sweep down here, I can pick one of those folders if I want to move from, oh, there's my Cobblestone folder, right? So there it is. I was looking in the wrong spot. So that is another way. So many ways that we can do some powerful organizing. And so at the beginning of our time when I said, it can look a little different based on things that you've done in the past, your inbox, your whole outlook can look really different depending on how you have set all of these different things up. Another organizing feature, if we come over a little bit further, you recognize reply all, forward. Here you can click on, if I want to say, I want to make sure I come back to this, I can click on unread. And so you'll see that it puts this unread bar back on it. So read, unread. If I want to come back, for me, that I actually use that a lot because it's like, I need to come back to that. So I mark it as unread. Over here, you can make categories. And so this is like putting another extra little tag on them. And so you can search by category later on. So that's another way to organize things. And here you can flag. So I have my email set up so that I can flag things right here. So I can turn a flag on here. I also have the move to, the mark is red, and the trash can. Those are the items that I have chosen to put there, if you remember at the beginning of the session, we looked at all those check boxes. So yours might not look like this here. You might not have the flag option here. You might just have it up here because you might have set it that way. And you can also flag it for when you would like it to, or how long you would like it to be flagged for. Did you know that you can pin emails, Coulter? That's something that not a lot of people know about.
Pinning to the top. Yeah.
Pinning to the top. You knew about that?
I do have a few of them that I've had to. I have a copier code that I have yet to memorize. So it's been pinned to the top so I can constantly open up my phone when I'm in the copier room. Like, what's that code again?
Right. So I actually didn't, I've used it, like, in all the years that I've used email, I didn't know that you could pin things. And then I was working with a teacher one day and she was like, oh, let me pin that. I'm like, what? So as you can see, I've got lots of stuff pinned up here. So what a pin does is it puts it to the top. Now this one right here, I'm like, oh, I don't need this one anymore. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to unpin. All right, and I could probably get rid of some of, no, most of those I probably need. So you can pin from the top, or you can right click on an item and pick pin as well. So if you want to pin something, it puts it up at the top, and every time you open up your email, it is sitting at the top. So that's another good way to organize, and for me, that's an important part of my email follow-up. Now, the next thing that we can do is we can also snooze. And so other people operate, like I pin, other people snooze. I don't use snooze a whole lot, but I have some friends that do. So what you can do is you can snooze about when you, like, it's like, oh, I don't have time for that this week, but I need to get to it next week. So you can snooze an email. So if I click on an email, click on the little clock or right click, it'll get the same menu. I can say, oh, I want this to come back later today. So I click on that, it goes out of my focused inbox and it'll come back later on. And so that's how that can go ahead. All right. So we've looked at lots of different ways there to do some house cleaning or some arranging in your web Outlook. So we'll give you a minute here, and I just realized I need to plug in my computer before well, you're just going to take a moment to do some house cleaning. We'll give you a minute or two to try, and then if you have questions about any of these things in that minute or two, you go ahead and let us know. Pop your mic on. There's not a lot of us in the live call right now. Pop your mic on. Let us know in that minute or two if you're trying to make one of these things work and it's not working for you. Before we go on, Coulter, are there any of those that you're like, oh, I forgot about that, or I need to use that, or?
My question, I guess, is I kind of chuckled when you swept your inbox and you're like, I hope I didn't do that, or didn't lose anything important. Can you undo?
In that, when you delete like that, I sold the farm there, right? Like, I don't think I can undo that. Like, because it goes to, you delete, and then the delete bin is like the safety. It's like for 22,000 emails, I could go back and find them in the deleted. Right now, I have said, no wonder my Outlook is so slow. I've just gotten rid of 22,000 things that were all in there. So I could archive stuff. Archive is easy to pull out of, and delete, you can undelete. Like, so once I hit the garbage can on an email, it goes to that delete folder with the other 22,000 things that I had in there. And so I can pull things out of delete, but once I did what I just did, they're gone.
That can be frightening for some, but
yes,
so
well,
such a nice relieving experience though for some.
I've been contemplating that for a while. It's like, oh, I just need to press that button.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, happy to be a part of it.
Anyways, yeah, okay. So I might be crying to you in a week.
You
Coulter, do
seem
you
a
remember
little.
when I? All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to move ahead and we're going to look at searching email. So I use search a lot, but there might be some things that you didn't realize are so helpful in searching on the web. So I see this little search bar up here all the time. I'll type in like a name, Coulter. Oh, there's Coulter. So I could click on Coulter, but did you know that if you come over here to this little arrow, you have all of these filters? So I've been searching in Outlook for a very long time, and I didn't realize until recently that if I click, and I always click on the arrow, but I just never clicked on that arrow. There's this whole search. It's, like if you click on the advanced search in Bing or in Google, you'll get many of these specific things, right? So it's like, oh, I know that email was from last week, or it was like a month ago or a year ago. You can select the date. Oh, it had an attachment. So you can really fine tune your search if you're looking for that specific thing. Hopefully it's not in the delete folder that you just permanently deleted. But if it was in the delete folder with my 22,000 things, it would pick it out of there as well. So it would actually go into that filter as well. So you can search from there really well. Wendy deletes in June. That's a good idea. Obviously, Wendy, it's probably been a couple Junes since I have deleted. The other place that we can search is if you go at the top of your email list, there's also another filter right here. So going back to my inbox, and actually it was there on that other screen, but now there's this little filter. So this is a search filter. So I can search by my unreads. I can search by flags. So if I clicked on flagged, everything, it's taking a long time because I have a lot of things that are flagged. So these are all flagged emails. And so you can see that I use flags a lot, almost to the point that it's like, why am I using all those flags? There's so many of them. So I'll change that back to all. So you can filter by a lot of things. Oh, it was an email just to me, or it had an attachment. So this is kind of like a quick filter. And then you could also filter by date or who it's from, subject. So there's some really powerful tools beyond just putting a name or a topic in the search bar. So again, lots of people don't realize that there's a little whole search magic under that click down arrow or under this little filter tab. Did you know those are there, Coulter?
I knew about some of the filters, but I not exactly though that in depth. No.
Okay. One other thing that's often people often want to do is have a thread in their email. So when we're talking about how our email looks, are you a threaded email or an unthreaded guy?
I'm a threaded guy. I like them all in one. I get confused if they don't come in. So I'm a threaded guy.
Okay. How about it? We'd love to know in the chat, are you threaded or unthreaded? I'm an unthreaded kind of girl because I like all of a sudden it's like in a thread, you only get the most recent, but sometimes there's been like 6 or 7 things in between, and then like, whoa, I missed a lot, or I tend to miss important pieces of information because it's in the thread and I didn't realize it. So I've gone to unthreaded, and that's helped me miss fewer things. In Outlook for the web, it's actually a little tricky to find the place where you thread. So here's our home in the view tab under now let me get this right. View layout. It's under layout. No, reading pane, folder pane, messages, under messages. There it is. Conversations, group into conversations. So Coulter, you'd be a group into conversations guy. So Coulter would pick that one. I like each message separately. And so that one's a little bit harder to find. You kind of just have to come up on this toolbar here, conversations, and then find it there. Okay. Now let's look at how to make another thing that we often want to do, and that is out of office, or how do we make an automatic reply? So this time I've gone from the settings tab, mail, and we want to come down here to automatic replies. Okay, so you're familiar with this probably. When someone's on vacation, they'll get, as soon as you send them an email, you'll get an email back that says, hi, I'm out of the office from this date to this date. That's an automatic reply. So if I turn that on, I can say, hi, I will be gone from December 23rd to January, I don't know, 9th or something like that. And you can give details, who to call in case of an emergency, all kinds of things. Now, if I press save right now, that's going to start automatically. I love that I can set a period. So let's say I know I want to send an out of office message later on. I can set that for right before Christmas. I can set the time, the end date when I want it to. I'm not bad with setting it to start. I am bad with setting it to come back off. And so it's like, how come no one's emailing me? Oh, I still have my automatic reply on. So the nice thing is that you can block calendar, and we're going to pop over to calendar right away. You can also block your calendar so no one can, you or no one else can book anything on your calendar. So that is really powerful. I also like that you can send it to inside your organization and also outside. So to people outside my organization, if I'm gone one day, it might not matter, but it might matter to people inside my organization who might be expecting me to reply within a day. So I do like it that I can decide whether I want this to just be internal or whether I can, whether I want it to do, be a little further. The next thing that we're going to look at is some notifications. And so under general, so we've got general mail and calendar. Under general, the notifications are under general. And so people often, will talk about increasing productivity. And one way we know one way we can increase productivity is to reduce our notifications, especially when you're working on a big project. Sometimes you want to shut those off so you're not getting a banner across the top or a ding. But sometimes it's important if you're waiting for important information, sometimes you need those. So if you've forgotten where to take care of your notifications, you can do that in settings, general, and notifications. I always have my sound off, so that I'm not getting dings and buzzes. I work in an office space with others, so I don't think they need to be hearing that all the time for sure. So that is where we find notifications. We're not going to go into rules. Oh, there we go. Where's rules? Right here. There is rules under the setting mails. There's a whole rules tab. What I'm finding with their Outlook program, with the web settings, or sorry, the sweep, the folders, a lot of the things that rules used to do in a real traditional email system are starting to be ones that come in with our focused inbox, the AI that happens, the sweep tools. And so you can go in and play with rules and make all sorts of really elaborate rules about how to send this email here at this time. But that gets pretty elaborate. So again, you're welcome to go in there, play with the rules so that you can, tell this email from this person to go to this folder. You know how to do all those parts. But sweep and some of the other things we've looked at actually do lots of those for you. All right, so rules is really detailed. We could take a whole hour on rules. I just want you to know that it's there, and that's the way that is. All right. So if there's any questions about some of that customization, how to make that feel just right for you, the customizing your toolbar, we looked at that right at the beginning. And so if you missed the beginning, if you didn't come in right at the beginning, you'll want to get our slide deck, and the very first few slides, I moved it up there to explain why your inbox might look different than mine. All right, and we're going to finish up with a little dive into calendar. And so in our email, we have, my icons are down the left side. You might have your icons, actually, these little, like the switch between calendar and email. Sometimes people have them set at the bottom of the left-hand tray. And so if that's confusing you, yours might be down at the bottom. I'm going to click into the calendar icon here. So we're going to switch over to my calendar. So we won't go in as in-depth in calendar as we went into email, but those two are very connected and they do work together. There's some things that they do together. So you can see at the top, we've got the home, we've got the view. And so if you want week view, month view, this is a new one, a board view. This is an interesting newer piece to Outlook where you've got your tasks, your calendar. You can even set it up so that your emails come in here. Are you a week view, month view guy? How do you operate there, Coulter?
Usually either a week or a month.
Okay, me too. I'm kind of I start at month usually is how I kind of look at everything at a glance. So that's how we can view things. You can decide, do you want 15-minute increments, hour increments? What does that look like? You can really, again, make it your home under the view tab. So we're going to come back to home, and to make a new event, a couple ways that you can do that. You can click on new event. And here again, like we saw in mail, I could make a new mail from my calendar, just like I could make a new calendar event from my mail. So we can click on new event and it'll give me the scheduling assistant, the scheduling pop-up window. The other thing that I can do is I can just say, oh, I want this at 7 p.m. on the 29th. I can double click and it'll pop up that same window. So we can do either of those. And then there's all sorts of different things that we can do. We can invite colleagues. And so if I wanted to add Coulter, Coulter, you show up sometimes, but not other times. Huh. So if I wanted to add Coulter, or I'll just add my other self, there we go. Now, did you notice what happens here? When I add another recipient whose calendar I have access to, so if this is a colleague that I work with, it'll show times that everyone is available to meet. So if I put my invitees in first and say, okay, we could meet at 5, 5:30, or 6 on these days, I can then pick a time that it works for all the invitees. So if I typed in 2 or 3 more people, these dates would change based on their availability. Now, that only happens if I have access to their calendars, even if they have the busy or not busy turned off. We can add a title, we can add dates, we can do lots of really specific things down here. 2 last things I want to show you in our calendar that people often ask about. Okay. And one is how to add a calendar. So if I wanted to add a calendar for bookings, let's say for my library, bookings for a sports team, I can add a calendar just by pressing this button. So that's how you add a calendar. And then if I wanted to turn certain calendars on or off, I can just click them. So if I click over here, that purple calendar is gone. If I click right here, this is my personal calendar, you'll see that those icons come back on. And then I can actually change the color. And this is helpful for, let's say I'll change this to something really different, orange. You see how those are all orange now? So that's really helpful. You want to make sure, I always want to make sure that every different calendar that I'm showing is a different color. So calendars off, calendars on. Those are some really specific ways that you can work within the calendar. Really, I think we're close to the end, and that's about it, Coulter. So that is what we'll do in calendar. And just about all the things. Keyboard shortcuts. I've got a list in here. I don't use a lot of these in email, but we put them in there because they're kind of fun. And Coulter, you can take us home.
That was awesome, Cami. Thanks so much for sharing all your knowledge and experience with that. In the group or in the chat, I've just posted just some things. We can always email us at help@cobblestonecollective.ca. Feel free, anything EdTech related, we are here to help you out. We're happy to respond to any queries or questions you might have. Feel free to join us for more workshops. We have another one tomorrow with just some tips and tricks on Outlook that you might not be familiar with. So feel free to check that one out, or our previous series, which were 2 other sessions that have gotten from A to Z with Outlook. So
and then tomorrow, did you tell about tomorrow's?
Yeah, tomorrow's is to tips and tricks. So
With
I'll be running
Coulter.
that one, and we'll be going through 10 to 15 different little ideas that you might not know or you might not have used before. So I'm excited for that one. And the final one is if you have a moment, feel free to fill out our little evaluation. Let us know in that evaluation what you'd like to learn from us, because we're happy to tailor some of these workshops towards you and towards your ed tech goals. So thanks again for being here. I'm going to stop our recording, but I will be the last person out of here. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop those in the chat, or you can unmute your microphone.